Hi Rajvara.
Hello, hi.
Welcome to Kamal.
Thank you.
Let me start with this question because I don't know a lot of people, I don't know if they know, especially outside Kerala, but then you distributed KGF 2, right?
Yeah.
And you're now going to distribute Salaar.
Yes.
So especially when it comes to KGF 2, you were able to see something in that movie before it exploded, right? You were able to see the potential at least few months before we saw it.
To be honest, it's not like I saw the whole film, KGF 2, before it released. I did see some portions of it. Prashant and Mr. Vijay Kiragandur had shown me some bits of the film they've shot, and I kind of knew that it's going to be much bigger and more adrenaline-inducing than KGF 1. But I would be lying if I told you that I saw the film and I knew it would take off. No. By then, Hombale Films and Prithviraj Productions sort of had reached an agreement where, okay, we are now going to be partners. And it was just part of the association that we are going to start off with KGF 2. Did I expect the film to do well? Of course I did. Did I expect it to do what it did? No, I did not. Because I know the exact numbers, but just to put it in perspective, including Malayalam Cinema, it still remains one of the highest grossing films ever. So, yeah.
No, but tell me, what were your first thoughts when you watched the first part? Did it just blow your mind?
The first part,
Yeah.
I absolutely loved KGF 1. Even today, I like KGF 1 better than KGF 2.
Oh,
yeah, I do. I've
wonderful.
told this to Prashant as well. Because KGF 1 to me was the quintessential Salim Javed, Amitabh Bachchan
Yeah.
70s film that I'm still a big fan of, right?
Yeah.
And also it just blew me away in terms of its styling, its aesthetics, and Yash, of course, was fantastic in it. And it's just not just me. I mean, pretty much every filmmaker back then, KGF 1 did to us what Big B did to us.
Of course.
Yeah,
My
you know,
favorite,
like
yeah.
we were just completely caught off guard by somebody coming in and doing something that none of us even thought of.
Yeah.
KGF 2 was a very good film, but because of how new KGF 1 was at that time, I still pick KGF 1 over 2. Yeah.
But did you ever feel like, see, we are also an industry, we also
Yeah.
have people who can do those kinds of films. We somehow missed that opportunity? Or is it just going to happen in the future?
It'll happen in the future, but miss that opportunity in the sense of making.
As in, okay, they made Bahubali. And
Oh,
they,
you mean like
they-
a film that finds
Yeah.
appeal all across?
all across India.
So we also have had our limitations. All these pan-Indian phenomenons that except Kantara. Kantara is a special case. All these pan-Indian phenomenons have happened because of the bare minimum guarantee of returns that the domestic market anyway will give them. Like say for example, Salaar. We know that there is a bare minimum market that the Telugu cinema will automatically give Salaar. That is the basis of the calculation of making such a big film. In that sense, Malayalam is limited. We are still the smallest industry of the five in terms of the number of theatres, in terms of how our diaspora is spread across the world, in how many screens we can release our film. But we are breaking away from it. We are trying and we are slowly getting to a place where our cinema can now be released widely enough for us to slowly start dreaming bigger. But now we are only talking money. Now then there is a Kantara, which was a small film, which wasn't a 50 crore film.
Yeah, within our budget, like what
Exactly.
we afford. Yeah.
Smaller than our budget.
Smaller than
I since I know the kind of money Rishabh made that film in, it is smaller than the average big Malayalam film, right? So then the Kantara happens, and then you realize, oh, hang on, it's not about the budget. It's about the content finding appeal, across language barriers and across diasporas. So yeah, I mean, we will get there. The trap that we shouldn't fall into is to desperately try, I know that there is this general consensus that now when we sit down to make a big film, the idea is let's make a pan-Indian film. You cannot make a pan-Indian film. A film can only become pan-Indian. So that's something we should never lose sight of. Yeah.
But Rajat, you generally when we talk to the Telugu directors or Bollywood directors, they're so happy to say that okay, the best writers are in Malayalam, or the best ideas are in Malayalam. How amazing it is that within this budget we were able to make such a great movie. But when you work with somebody like Prashant Neel, what is the reverse? What are you feeling about his filmmaking? Like how they feel about our writing?
So again, this question also unfortunately has the underlying assumption that the kind of cinema Prashant Neel makes is easier to write.
Yeah, yeah.
It is not easy to write. You know, because I've fielded this question a lot. Yeah. Making large-scale mass entertainers that connect with the audience, that make the person watching the film travel with the narrative of the film, requires a very high level of skill in screenplay writing. So I have this grouse with people saying content-driven films and then action films.
No, of course, yeah.
Action films are also content-driven. And now I've seen it in person. I've experienced it in person regarding how much effort Prashant puts into writing. Everything else comes later. He's a spectacular technician. He's got a keen sense of style and his aesthetics are world-class. And there's a design language that he brings into his filmmaking which is truly international. All that aside, the amount of effort that man puts into writing is what truly makes his films special. You can't create a Rocky out of nothing, you know.
Yeah.
You cannot create a Khansar out of nothing. So in Salaar, you're going to see and discover this fictional place called Khansar. This man has gone ahead and created a 1,000-year history for this fictional place. And he's created the names and heritages of the various tribes in that place. How are they interconnected? Who are the characters? What are the character dynamics? And about 20% of what he's created is in the film, but he still created that. So that's the kind of effort he puts into writing. So one thing I discovered when I did this giant film, Salaar is easily the biggest film I've ever been part of, is that the budgets and the scale are always secondary. The primary aspect of it remains the same in Malayalam, in Telugu, Kannada, Hindi, anywhere. The film has to work on paper. It has to work on paper. You cannot direct a bad script into a good film. You can direct a good script into a great film, but you can't save a bad film with direction. And Prashant would be the first one to accept that. Yeah.
But I have a follow-up question to that, Rajata. You've made the biggest mass super hit in Malayalam. Okay. And now you're working on a film, you finished working on a film like Salaar, where that teaser, you know, it blew my mind. Like, you know, Tinu Anand comes and he's explaining a line where you're saying, okay, you compare cheetahs, tigers, and then this is Jurassic Park. On paper, you might think, okay, as Malayalis, you might think this is very over the top, this is not subtle. But when you actually hear that line, I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
So how do you actually pull it off?
Because what is being written on paper is not the line.
Yeah.
What is being written on paper is the vision. The line is just one small part of the vision, right? So when you listen to Prashant's narration, you are taken into his vision. He's telling you his vision, how he's seen the film.
So you're also feeling it when you hear it.
Absolutely. So okay, I mean, let's just say a line. Violence, violence, violence.
Yeah.
I don't like, but violence likes me.
You're like, what are you saying?
What is this line? Yeah. But it is so effective in that particular point, in that particular film, when that particular character, of course that particular actor, says it. That is why I'm saying the vision is important. The vision is very, very important. You know, when you listen to Prashant's narration, you understand the world he's creating. Once you're in that world, this line will make sense.
Yeah.
Once you're in that world, the over-the-top action will make sense. Once you're in Khansar, you will realize that the violence makes sense. So the vision, creating the world is very, very important. Which again brings me back to the point that writing a film like this is not easy.
Yeah. And which is what I've always loved about you. Like almost every interview, you might give an example of a very classy, artsy movie. I mean, I'm not saying this is not classy or anything like that, but then almost immediately you talk about the staging of Shaji Kailas. You always talk about Joshi sir's staging and all that. You've never shied away from that. But as a follow-up to that, you know, another question that's been going around right now, see, like I think Lucifer was about 2 hours 50 minutes, right?
Yeah, 2:57. Yeah.
2:57. This is again 2 hours 55 minutes,
I think. Yeah.
And both the KGFs are also quite like 2 hours 50 minutes, and then Animal is 3 hours 20 minutes.
Yes.
See, so much talk is going on about, okay, how the Gen Z and the millennials don't have attention span. They're addicted to reels, it's 30 seconds long, and they go to the next thing. And the editor of Salaar is a 20-year-old boy, right? Yeah. Who's like a TikTok star or something like that. He used to edit all that. So what is your theory on this? On one hand, okay, everything is true. Okay, 30 seconds, nobody's watching long form, people are not reading a lot. But if you give them a 3-hour movie, they have no problems. Yeah. It's the 1,000 crore movie. So what is this dichotomy?
The duration of a feature film, the run time of the feature film, will only matter to the exhibitor. Because you're going to
One
lose.
less show.
Exactly. You're going to lose a show or a couple of shows every day. Other than that, even if it's a 30-second Instagram reel, if it's not interesting enough, you will swipe at the 10th second. Even if it's a 3-hour-long feature film, if it's interesting enough, you will sit down for the 3 hours. So I keep telling my assistant directors, actually, even the second part of Lucifer is also going to be a fairly long film. So when they bring up the
Length
the issue of the length, I keep telling them, if this film works at the end of 45 minutes, it will still work at the end of the 3rd hour. If this film does not work, it will not work by the 20th minute. So I am a big believer that you can make any length of cinema if you make sure that the person watching it is not looking at his watch in between. So the length of the feature film does not matter to the average audience. It is the engagement that matters. Within a 3-hour film, if in every 20-30 minutes you're disconnecting with the person watching it, then of course it becomes an issue. Now KGF works or Lucifer has worked because thankfully we were able to create that length of screen time that is continually engaging for the person watching it. So I don't think that there is actually a dichotomy that exists. It's very simple. 20 seconds or 2 hours, 30 seconds or 3 hours. You have to continually engage the person watching it. And laws remain the same for an Instagram reel and a feature film. Yeah.
Well, another question I've always wanted to ask you, Ajay, is about your taste. Okay.
Yeah.
Taste one in the movies that you do and and your taste in the kind of movies that you watch.
Yeah.
First of all, is there a difference in both?
No. I see all kinds of cinema.
Yeah.
I would love to be part of all kinds of cinema. I would love to direct all kinds of cinema. I would definitely produce all kinds of cinema. To me, there are only 2 kinds of cinema, the good ones and the bad ones.
And the bad ones.
Yeah, I mean, the good ones are the ones that I enjoy watching, the ones that keep me engaged, the ones where I'm not looking at my watch, And the bad ones are the ones that I am thinking, okay, when is this going to get over?
Yeah.
So,
no, but even then, Rajata, you're somebody who's kind of pushed it. Because let's say 10 years ago, if I were to tell you there's going to be a super hit movie that's about a Jewish ghost that is set in Mattancheri,
yeah.
You'll think you're like, what are you saying? Like, nobody's going to believe that.
It's strange, we are in 2024 now, right?
Yeah.
So it's about 10 years ago that I listened to the script of Ezra. And I immediately knew it would work.
But how? It's about taste, right? Eventually you kind of trust your instinct, right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, when I'm sitting here and saying I immediately knew it would work, I'm getting ahead of myself a bit because there really isn't any way to confirm that any film will work. You kind of get the vibe, oh, this will work.
Yeah.
You think and the important thing about this is that you don't listen to a script as a director, as an actor, as a producer, nothing. You listen to it as an audience. You listen to it as a film lover. And then you think, oh, hang on, would I want to see this film? Is it exciting me in a way where I want to see this film? If the answer is yes, then you say yes to it. This process is actually that simple. But because the process is so simplified, you can go wrong. And unfortunately, there is no foolproof method to this. If that was the case, then I would never be part of an unsuccessful film. No actor would ever be part of an unsuccessful film. But the thing is, to take Ezra's example, it is actually the quintessential classic horror film. New couple coming to Cochin. Of all the places available in Cochin, they moved to an old bungalow in Fort Cochin, of course. And it's a 20,000 square foot bungalow, just the 2 of them living there.
Close to the synagogue.
Close to a synagogue. And the girl goes shopping. Of course, she has to go shopping to an antique store, not to any normal furniture shop. And she has to buy the most shady looking piece of furniture.
Yeah, no.
Right, yeah. But within that formula of the quintessential cliched horror film, what really works for Ezra is the flashback story. The flashback story about the love story, the Jewish backdrop, all that is very
setting,
new.
Yeah.
All that is very new. So I sort of thought, oh, this is a film that has to be made. And full marks to Jayakrishan, the director, the cinematographer Sujit, who gave the film a very, very new language away from the traditional horror cinema that we have seen. And my producers, E4 Entertainment, who, just completely relied on I told them this film will work and they just believed it.
Yeah,
so,
that's the only thing to do.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to know, so what is going to become a hit 10 years from now then?
Oh, I wish I knew.
Ezra was that, right?
Correct. I mean, I wish I knew. Like, I'm sitting here, is it like I've not done a flop film in the last 10 years? I've done, so many of my films have flopped. Like, A Gold, which was... which in our mind,
on paper
is a runaway
safest,
success. It's got Alphonse Putran directing it. even today, I think one of the most talented filmmakers in Kerala. Nayanthara, myself, a host of other actors, fantastic music. There is no way this could go wrong, but it didn't go wrong. So you never know, you know.
Another thing, Rajara, like especially the movies that, right from Kanakande, okay, this is not just about 2 or 3 movies, but right from like movies that you did 10 or 15 years ago outside Tamil Nadu, I mean outside Malayalam, there was, I mean, it felt like, of course, you did a lot of fascinating movies in Malayalam also, but there was a next level freedom, but a next level chilled outness in the way that you know, kind of took up roles like the one in Ravanan, you know, or my favorite, Kavya Thalaivan, you know. And so generally when the responsibility is shared or when it's not the dynamics of your own home industry, are you a little bit more relaxed on doing any kind of character that you want?
I'm the same actor who did an Achanurangata Veedu. I mean, I'm the same actor who spent at least a month convincing my director that no, I shouldn't be the hero, I should be the villain in a Kurdi. So I have always thought of cinema like that. But I'll tell you something about going into other languages. I have no pretense. I know that I am a Malayalam actor. And Malayalam industry will be my home industry forever. Okay? So for me, Malayalam cinema is what I do and everything else is once in a while. So for me to take time off Malayalam cinema and do that once in a while film, it'll have to be a really good script that really excites me as an actor, which provides me an opportunity that I might not be getting every day. Which is why I think my other language films sort of look like they're very esoteric and very, you know, varied in choices and all that. But other than that, there is no other process to it. Kavya Thalaivan was the last Tamil film I did, which was what, in 2014 or something. 14. And I got the Tamil Nadu State Government Award for that film. And after that, I've never done a Tamil film. It's not that I have not listened to a Tamil script. Multiple times Tamil films have come my way. I just didn't find anything exciting enough to take time off my home ground and go there and do it. Same thing with Hindi cinema. It's not that I haven't listened to a script. Of course, with the volume of cinema films that are being made, I'm sure every actor is getting scripts their way. I have also read and listened to multiple scripts, but I just didn't find something exciting enough to take time off from Malayalam and go and do it. Which is why, so eventually when I do that, it will be for a character, for a film that makes me want to do it because it's so good. Maybe that's why you think my other language films are very interesting.
They're super interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Another thing, you know, you started your career at 19, okay?
Okay.
And I still think, maybe along with Aniti Prabhu, the best debut anybody could have got in Malayalam. The only debut I think anybody that is better than your acting debuts, I think your directing debut. So, which I don't think anybody will get. But can you trace back to that period where, you know, maybe in early 20s or mid 20s where, okay, of course, you know that this is going to be a profession because I don't think after Nandanam you've had a single day where you don't know the projects for the next 3 years or so. So, is there any period where you're just on the sets and you're thinking, it's not just acting, I'm really getting to this direction business, it's organically drawing you into that space?
So, it took me about 4 or 5 films to finally come to terms with the fact that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Till about Vellithira, Badran sir's film. Till then, I kept telling myself, oh, okay, one more film. In fact,
And then what is the plan?
Yeah, so I was studying in a university abroad.
Australia, right?
Yeah, and so like all foreign universities, you can take a semester off. I don't know if you know that. You can take like 6 months off and tell them, you'll rejoin this semester in the next term. You can do that. The university has a provision for that. So I had sent an email saying I'm just taking 6 months off and I'll come and rejoin, and they were okay with it. And my idea was that in 6 months I do Nandanam, that's it, Nandanam, and then one more film happened. Then I'm telling myself, okay, it's just till June or July, that's the time that I'm going back. And I kept lying to myself that, okay, this is not what I'm doing, this is a part-time vacation job or something.
Pocket money when you go back, something like that.
Not even the money really, I mean just like, okay, trying something out of boredom, or, I don't know. And also for the fact that I was the least expected in my family to ever make it into cinema. I was not that kind of a guy. I was not, I was not somebody who really wanted to be in performing arts and all that. My brother always wanted to be an actor, which is probably the reason he's a better actor than me. I never really wanted to be an actor. But then films kept happening, and finally it's around Vellithira time that I realized, hang on, stop fooling yourself. This is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. stop fooling yourself, you're actually enjoying this. Once I came to terms with that realization, then it was never about acting alone or filmmaking alone or anything for me. I just wanted to know everything about cinema. I just wanted to know everything. I used to bugger cameramen. I used to really disturb editors. When digital intermediate was introduced, I used to ask.
Khaki, you're a big fan of Khaki.
Yeah,
right?
I used to beg to be let into color correction studios to see the process. I just wanted to know everything, and even today I'm like that. I mean, if there is something new, I really want to learn it because, one, I am now deeply in love with the whole process of filmmaking. Two, I really don't know anything else. So the one thing I know, I better get to know it well. So for me, it was never about let me now learn direction or let me now learn production or let me now learn cinematography. For me, it was always about learn cinema. And in the process, I got to know about the different crafts and the different skill sets. In fact, filmmaking wise, I started dabbling with filmmaking right from Vargam time. Because Vargam is the first film where I shot an action sequence. I directed an action sequence for myself. And then Vastavam climax action I directed. And so I started filmmaking back then itself. Then I wanted to learn editing. I wanted to learn cinematography. With Santosh Shivan, with Urmi, he used to let me operate the camera once in a while and all that. I mean, imagine Santosh Shivan, right? I mean, so I should be also thankful that I got to work with these legends who liked teaching, who liked the fact that an actor would come up to them and ask them, can I have a camera and a set of lenses? Because I want to know from the same focal length, how different does a 50 look to a 75, all that. So Santoshan did this for me. I'm saying this
Taught
particular.
You, like.
No, when I kept asking him, he did this. Explain. He gave me a camera and he gave me a set of lenses and he told me, go and find one object and mark the length from which the camera is planted and keep changing the lenses and see how the perspective differs. He did this for me. So all that I'm thankful. So even today I'm learning, and the greatest thing about cinema is that you can never stop learning. It's a kind of field where nobody ever is complete in any fashion. So yeah.
So just a quick question related to what you just said about learning. So I'll name a few directors. Can you tell me one thing that you kind of picked up from their style?
I'll try.
Okay.
Yeah.
From every decade of your career.
Yeah.
Okay. Joshi sir.
Staging.
Staging.
Yeah, staging a scene because Joshi sir, I think, is an absolute master at realizing that for this particular point in the drama to work, the master shot has to be this way, and the person saying that pivot line should be here, and the entry of the second character should be from right of frame. He has to come from right of frame so that when I cut to his suggestion, the other person is left of camera and I'm shooting over this guy's left shoulder so that I get this dynamic. That staging is, he's a genius at it. He's an absolute genius. And I didn't learn it by working with him, I learned it by watching his films. Right from New Delhi and all that, he's a master at staging. Yeah.
Amal Neerad.
Many things. One thing I can pick out, because I'm a big fan of Amal Neerad, the filmmaker, one thing I can pick out that I distinctly remember learning is the use of this piece of equipment called Jimmy Jib. Because till Anwar, which was my first film with Amal Neerad, Jimmy Jib was an equipment that only came on locations when we were shooting a song or maybe like sometimes for an action sequence. The first film where I saw Jimmy Jib being a statutory equipment every day to shoot scenes was Anwar. And day one I'm thinking, what is he going to do with this? And I realized, oh my God, this is actually meant to shoot scenes. It is actually meant to create different dynamics and perspectives and short movements within conversations and scenes. I learned that from Amal Neerad.
Anjali Menon.
Patience. The greatest virtue a filmmaker can have is patience. And the way Anjali is so confident as a filmmaker to sit back and create a space and let actors walk in and do their thing. And she'll just let us do our thing and then decide that she wants the coverage from here, that she wants the coverage from here. That process is wonderfully organic, but what that process needs and warrants is a ton of patience. Anjali has that. Yeah.
The great Mani Ratnam.
I think I've told Mani sir also this, that the toughest shot is more often than not the best shot.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were shooting.
If it's impossible, it's better.
With Mani sir, there is no impossible. Yeah. So we were shooting in I don't know if he remembers this. in Varachal, and it was sort of a scene that I'm not even part of. Two things are this, and there is this shot that he won from top of the waterfall. So Samida, the production designer, is saying to mount a Strada crane there, we will have to create a platform on top of the waterfall with RC pillars into the rock, because or else that much weight, which basically meant like we had to stop shoot for some 3 days or something. No other filmmaker would, we would just say, okay, we'll think of something else. Manisha said, okay, then go. I think that platform is still there in Adirapalli, So I was in awe of how much he was, because so then that tells you that shot is an absolute necessity for him, which is why he is going through all this. And I remember asking him another thing that, so we are doing such a big film, you have everything at your disposal, why don't you have an editor on location? Like, I edit on location, an online editor. He told me something that I'll never forget. He said, yeah, I don't mind, but the problem is, Prithvi, the editor should never be privy to the effort behind a shot. Because if an editor thinks...
What a point,
yeah. Because if an editor thinks, oh, that shot is unnecessary, his decision making should not be influenced by his knowledge of, oh my God, they spend so much time taking
He
that.
Shouldn't care how much
care.
effort.
Yeah, this is something Manisha told me.
And finally, Prashant Neel.
Make your team members, including your cast, feel like they are stakeholders in the whole filmmaking process. What Prashant does wonderfully well is he'll come and tell you the script, and then he'll genuinely ask you, so what do you think? Is there something we can do better and all that? And I remember saying something, I said, Prashant, I think maybe we could do something like that. He had to reshoot something for this to be incorporated. He thought it was so good that he did it. You know what that suddenly made me feel like? I'm like, oh my God, it was Salaar, Prashant Neel film, and now I am responsible for this.
You're a stakeholder. Yeah.
And it's not just me. You go to a Prashant Neel set, even the last art assistant feels that way. He's got this wonderful team working with him where everybody is like, this is my film, this is my film. To instill that sense of ownership in your team is something that creates such a great work environment. That's something I learned from Prashant. Apart from all the other usual stuff that I can say about how fantastic a technician he is, which the world anyway knows. So, yeah.
Just last two things, Rajata. Apart from City of Gold, right? Tell me the failure of that one movie that really broke your heart early on in your career.
So I, early on in my career, because I kept thinking this is not for me, I was
not to go back to Australia.
I was not very attached to my films, to be very frank. I'm being honest here. And by the time I started getting attached to my films, I taught myself that the most important thing about cinema is to be detached with the results. Because cinema is a field where you can have an absolute glorious Friday and a completely crushing Friday in a span of 20 days between each other. So you need to be zoning in and zoning out of a film in a fashion where you are no longer attached to the result. So I keep telling this because say you have a blockbuster success, it's very easy to just be there, celebrate the success, party. You will be called to the US for a Enninta Moideen celebration by the association in Los Angeles, or then they are going to fly you first class, and they are saying, sir, after this we'll give you a 1-week thing in Vegas. Okay, then so it's very easy to just stay there in that success. If you have a crushing failure, it's very easy for you to think, oh my God, I've put in so much effort, now all that has come to nothing. Success or failure, walk away from it. When you're doing a film, do it with 100% of your commitment. Do all that you can for the film. Promote the film. Come sit, give interviews like this. But come 22nd, I'm going to walk away from Salaar. Yeah.
And my last question, one of my all-time favorite mass moments is, of course, the John Vijay Lalaton scene in Lucifer.
Yeah.
What was your absolute favorite mass moment from Malayalam, any kind of movies when you were like in school and stuff like that?
Spadigam.
Wow, okay.
I mean, it's hard to really, for me, in any language across India, it's hard to really pick a better mass film than that. Idanda Pudhiya Ray-Ban Glass, Idu Chavattipodikkunna Kaliyamattum, is an absolute genius.
Remember watching it?
I still watch it. I still watch it. It's still one of my go-to films, Spadigam for sure. Then also, because it's one of a very inspirational film for me, Devasuram.
Of course.
New Delhi.
New Delhi. Big B also?
Big B definitely for filmmaking, but New Delhi for Mammootka's performance and the character and the way. See, it's New Delhi because all the mass moments in New Delhi is with a hero who can't even walk properly. And it needed an actor like Mammootka to be able to pull that off, you know. I keep saying Malayalam cinema because that's what I've been brought up on. Like people ask me, that's why when people ask me who are your inspiration as a filmmaker, so I think they expect me to...
Clint Eastwood and Scorsese.
Clint Eastwood is a huge inspiration, but my inspiration for filmmaking is I.V. Shashi sir and Shaji Attan and Joshi sir and all these people because I grew up on these films.
Thank you so much, Rajat.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward, I'm so excited to watch it.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.